Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. And if you're new here, my name is Shelly. I am Shelly over 60. So today's hot topic is going to be about my adult autistic daughter's thyroidectomy. When several years, like 3 or 4 years ago, my daughter was in a car accident. Somebody ran through a red light, a guy in a truck, and he hit her, and her car like literally spun around. Like it was really scary. So I went to the scene, and she was in the car going, ow, ow, like, because I said, they asked, do you need an ambulance? She said no. And I said, we get in the car, we go get her. Obviously we're all really like upset. And I'm like, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. And she's like grunting and groaning. I said, what's the matter? Well, when she lifted up her shirt a little, where the seatbelt was already bruising. This is like a couple hours after the accident. I'm like, no, go to the emergency room. So we took her to the emergency room, and and thank God, everything was okay. She was, for the most part, her knees were badly bruised, her legs, her stomach, and where the seatbelt was, she had really bad bruises. So, overall she seemed okay, but she was having a lot of back pain and this and that. So she went to have an MRI. Obviously, we saw a doctor. She had an MRI. And, they found some little thing. Long story short, they said, oh, she's okay. She's fine. Okay, good. She's great. She's fine. Well, that was in September. The following February, I am going through her old, medical papers. I keep everything. I'm a typical autism mom, right? We keep everything. So I literally have a notebook. It says Sabrina, right? So I'm going through this report, and on this report, it says that they see a large, I forget how big, I want to say 5 centimeters, like big, they see a mass in her neck that should be followed up. No one said nothing to me. None of the doctors said a word to me. I'm freaking out, right? So I go to my husband. I'm like crying. I'm like, oh, because obviously like I said, we're all, me, my husband, my mom, we're all in the medical industry. So my mind goes right away. Oh my God, you just get this big mass. It's, worst case scenario. So my husband looks at it. We get the images, and this thing's, big. All this to say, so I told my daughter, like I gently told my daughter, and she's like, yeah, I noticed when I put my head back like this, I could see it and feel it. I'm like, what? She never said a word to me. I was like, just freaking out, like it's like an egg, and I didn't know, when she put her head back, you could really see it, but like just talking to her, you really couldn't see it. So I'm like calling my friends, I'm crying, like, oh my God, and I'm just so worried because, right away I went to thyroid cancer, like, or thyroid tumor, or, we always, well, not everybody, but I was like, God, it's the worst case scenario. So I get a ultrasound done, and sure enough, like this big mass, it says that it had a thyroid of like 3 or 4, basically meaning, like 0 to, I believe, 6, 0 meaning no chance of cancer, 6 meaning get your butt in there. It's like 4, so I'm like, oh my God, yeah. Okay, so I take her to Moffitt Cancer Center in Tampa, and they're like, yeah, they do all the things, all these tests on her, and this kid, I don't know, she just did it, just does all these tests, she did everything she had to do, and she just kind of does it, right? So she gets the test, and the biopsy comes back. They believe most of it was, like benign. It was benign. Let me start there. But it was huge. Like, it was just huge. It was like impeding her her airway a little bit. So they said, well, we could take out half of her thyroid, and leave half her thyroid in. She's young. And then I looked it up, and it's something like 55% of all people who have half a thyroid out end up having to go get the other half. And I'm always reminded of this one story I knew. I'll try to be really brief. She had half her thyroid out. They told her everything was benign. And then like 3 or 4 months later, they're like, oh yeah, something else came back and it was missed. And it turned out it was cancer and she needed radiation therapy. Just, so I talked to her dad and my husband and the doctors. And they're like, look, if you take it out, you're right. And if you don't take it, if you just do half, you're right, whatever you want. So I talked to her, to Sabrina, my daughter. And, and I just didn't want to put her through all this again. I'm like, let's just get it all while we're in there and not have to go. I didn't want her to ever have to face that, not alone, but like when I'm not here, So she has a thyroidectomy. She has the scar. Like I said, y'all will meet her at some point. So I remember just being like, honey, why didn't you tell me, And she recovered really well. I mean, she came here to my house and 5 days after surgery, yeah, Mom, I'm going home now. She took her emotional support pet. She went home to her apartment and I got so sick. I got so sick. I remember I had strep because I stayed there with her. I slept like this on the end of the bed. I just didn't want to leave her. I'm a strong proponent of never leave your family member or loved one in the hospital alone if you don't have to. Just you have to advocate. So anyway, she does well. And all this I'm saying is like, she broke her toe once and just kept on walking on it. Just, finally I noticed, I'm like, wow, just look right. We had to get that seen too. She just adapts. Like she has this big egg in her neck. She just goes with it, right? She just rolls with it. And when she broke her toe, she just kind of like walked different on her foot and she accommodates this pain. I remember they took her tonsils out when she was 5 years old. She just stopped eating and drinking. It hurts. And 5 years old, we just couldn't get her to eat or she ended up in intensive care. Like it was really scary, right? So I have seen in my group with the autistic kids, most of them, now this is most of the ones I've seen. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a therapist. This is all what I've seen. A lot of my kids in that group, that's what they do. They just accommodate pain. They could break their arm and they just accommodate it and they just keep going on with their lives. They're usually not whiners and criers. I mean, you have your, a few of them that the slightest little thing, they're screaming, but for the most part, they just adapt, right? This is my new normal. This pain's my new normal. And they just go on about their business. And that's my daughter. My daughter, if she's in pain, chances are you probably won't know about her if there's something going on. So I have to be extra diligent with her. Watch your body. Are there lumps? Are there changes? Get to the doctors, get your checkups, because here she was this big thing. I'm not kidding. When she put her head back and I saw it, I was like, oh my God. It really was. It was huge. I was like, how did that slip by? And the fact that she said she was putting lotion or something, she felt it and just didn't, she was like, oh, I didn't think anything of it. It's frightening to me. So I think obviously all parents have to be extra diligent, not just autistic parents. I'm speaking about autism because that is what I know. My daughter's autistic. So I constantly, feel like we have, how are you feeling? How, you have she had an earache one time and went on forever. Like she just was in pain, finally. And when that child says she's in pain, you better listen and get where you got to go, because she's not a complainer. If she's complaining about pain, it is like insurmountable. It's bad stuff. And a lot of these autistic kids are tough. They're really tough, physically and emotionally. They're used to being bullied. They're getting hurt. They accommodate these feelings, like they take them in and they accommodate the pain. And it's sad, right? They shouldn't have to do that. And I told my daughter, you don't have to live with pain. You don't have to live with being bullied, or you don't have to live with these types of things. My grandson and my granddaughter, if they had a big egg, they would come running right to me or their mom, oh my God, this isn't normal. My grandson, and my granddaughter, if they're sick, they call me, Maybe I don't feel good, or, they know something's wrong is what I'm trying to say. They're neurotypical kids. Neurodivergent kids, they just accommodate. They just go with it. And that's where we have to be careful, right? So do you guys find yourself having to be like that extra watch and see what's going on with your autistic kids? I mean, like I said, she's an adult now. She's 26. She lives on her own. And I'm trying to teach her these things. Teach her, like, no, do this, do that. You can't, don't let it go. I'm not talking about, every little scratch or sniff, but for the most part, like, something doesn't go away. Girl, get that checked, right? Tell somebody. And then that egg in her neck, she, like I said, she had it removed and she recovered beautifully, thank God. And she's doing well. And yeah, but it's really a scary thing, right? With our autistic kids, we have to constantly, look at them. Is there changes? Is there something going on? I had a friend that her son was in the hospital and he was like turning yellow, like jaundice, and she, and he's tough. He was really tough, and she's like, what the hell, she's with the doctors, and she's all over the place, and she got it seen to, because people say we're helicopter moms, but are we? Are we really just being too much, or are we doing what needs to be done because our kids are accommodators, right? I don't know. Anyway, I can go on all night with it, but I'm not going to do that. Let me know what you guys do. Like, do you do that, or is your autistic child different? Do they tell you everything? Do you have to hunt it down, or how does that work for you? What works for you? So, in any case, that is Shelly's hot topic of the day. So, have a great day, and I will see you in the next one.